Terrific, thank you. And we're looking forward to a fun 25 minutes. And I have to say, I think this is the first time I've ever introduced a session using the British tabloid newspaper, the Daily Mail. And I have to say, it's probably the last time I'll do that as well. But when I arrived in England on Monday, this was facing me. The headline is "Secretly Filmed as You Shop. Exposed, Britain's biggest stores use cameras on shelves to manipulate customers into spending more." And this article actually brings to the fore some of the issues we want to discuss today. And I've got two great speakers to discuss it with us. And it's essentially, is AI for the best or for the worst? What can we achieve with AI, and what are some of the risks and harms we might want to address? So our first question will be to you, Elodie. Works in digital fashion at the City of Glasgow College. What's your vision for the benefits that can arise from the use of AI? How can AI help us achieve our sustainability goals? What gives you the most hope?
Well, hi everyone, thanks for having me. Well, I guess to answer very quickly to your question, my first idea in terms of what AI can do for us is to rationalize the processes of production, creation, and distribution of goods. I've been working extensively in fashion, which is somehow the best and the worst industry with that regards. And so planning ahead, thanks to AI, would be definitely the thing to go for, because it's just evident, it's obvious that's what we should be doing to rationalize every process in the making to distribute and give us clothing.
So rationalizing processes sounds very cold. What are the real sort of social, environmental benefits, human rights benefits from rationalizing processes?
Well, how many t-shirts are produced just to have one t-shirt that you like? So basically analyzing with AI trends, and I'm just talking about fashion, but that could be done with food or any kind of good basically. And the thing is, produce less, produce in a more accurate way, and thanks to AI, thanks to analyzing massively data that we are giving, social media, blah, 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 giving for free or not, or willingly or not, that's another question maybe we'll tackle later, but that's the deal. Let's just assess what we want and what we would like to have, so that before having it or buying it, there is more sense in production and rationalizing the material that is used, transportation, and so on. That's my point.
We're definitely going to come back to the data and consent issue. Jean-Yves, Microsoft, obviously, big fan of AI, I'm guessing. Can you describe a little bit the benefit of artificial intelligence, especially from a sort of social, environmental, sustainability, human rights point of view? What's the upside?
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm very, very pleased to be here. Social benefits of AI. Let me just start by saying that AI is generally, like I think many technologies, can have good impact and can also be used for bad things. We can talk about facial recognition as one example, which is, of all AI technologies, one of the ones where it's really necessary to be careful about what and how we use it. AI for good. Well, AI for good, to get a little bit away from retail and the points that you were making about production, inventory, delivery, payment systems where AI is used, we at Microsoft, besides developing AI systems, are also using AI technology for what we hope is good. And we launched over the past 2 years a program which is called AI for Good, which includes 3 main elements. So AI for Good is a program where Microsoft is going to partner with third parties, including non-governmental organizations, NGOs, in 3 main areas. One is sustainability, environment protection. The second is accessibility, and the third one is humanitarian action. As regards the first element, environmental protection, the way we see it is that we are developing with third parties, with NGOs, artificial intelligence systems which are aimed at sustainability purposes. One example is precision agriculture, which are AI tools which enable the enterprises in the agriculture business to determine very precisely at what time they need to plant what seeds where, given the weather conditions, given what we know about the impact of the weather conditions that are forthcoming that we can predict on the growth of those seeds. So we are working on agricultural precision. We are giving technology, we are giving funding to increase agricultural production, agricultural precision, in order to increase the yield with lower resources. Accessibility, that's an interesting area where we have been developing a tool which is called Seeing AI. And Seeing AI is technology which enables blind people and people with low vision to being told what is around them. And so the thing works in this way. Imagine people who has low vision getting out of a taxi here in Paris, and this tool, Seeing AI, is going to actually narrate the world which is around the blind person and tell her or tell him, just out of the taxi, you are on Place du Marché Saint-Honoré, it's number 45. Just in front of you, there is this thing. This is the Marché Couvert, Saint-Honoré. Just behind you have this. If you want that shop, it's 15 meters on the side. And be careful, because just next to you, there is the end of the pathway, and you'll be on the street. So this is a tool which works on the basis of vision and language. It's called Seeing AI, and that's a tool where we have developed the artificial intelligence system in partnership with others to do that. The last point was, as I was mentioning, AI for humanitarian systems or for humanitarian action, where, again, here we are developing AI systems and giving money to organizations to develop those AI systems to address most of the humanitarian crises, such as disaster relief, such as the needs of refugees and displaced population, just to give a few examples. So again, the key point is this. Artificial intelligence is a technology which is going to be, and which is becoming really pervasive. It can be used for bad things. It can also be used for very good things. I think we can talk about that, but I think it's really the responsibility of everyone to focus on the second category of the good things for which it can be used.
Great, so let's move on to the harms. I opened with the very sensationalist headline, secretly filmed as you shop. What fears do you have about the use of AI, facial recognition, other disruptive technologies? What gives you most pause for thought, Elodie?
Well, the first thing I can think about would be, of course, political use of it, and even like abusive use of it in terms of criminal law or anything. So let's say I'm recognized as a shopper, I'm like a good shopper in a luxury brand boutique, and then the thing is messed up, and suddenly I'm confused with like a criminal person who has been a shoplifter, and I'm escorted to the end of it. Well, no, of course not. The second point is I think, and I'm just taking the shop thing, but it could be applied to many different things, whenever you enter a place, whether it be a shop or university or whatever, being recognized by a robot could be good for security measures, and I'm not downsizing the importance of this, especially in a time like these ones, right? But the problem would be, do I really want to be recognized by a robot, or would I rather be non-recognized and greeted by a real person? So let's say I'm entering my university where security measures are really important, and then a robot says, "Hi, Elodie, pleased to see you." That's just fine. What about a human person using an iPad saying, "Oh, hi, Elodie, that's very nice to see you." Well, I've never seen you before, so what's the point in that? So, of course, for security measures, it's great. Political use of it is slightly edgy, just because we know that it has been used before, it will be in the future. So my point, maybe as an academic, would be, before launching everything, before doing even when you are doing the technical research and programming stuff, why don't we use humanist people or social scientists just to say, hey guys, you are doing a great job at inventing stuff, but what's behind it, what's before, what's after, and what can be done in terms of forward thinking as a programmer, but also as a social thinker, what can be done wrong? And if we are aware of exactly what can be done wrong, maybe we can put the necessary barriers to prevent it from happening. And that's exactly not what has been happening with Facebook, for instance. They did not think before. I mean, they had an amazing tool to drive people somewhere, and it has been done wrong, and has been used in the wrong way.
Elodie, I'm going to jump in from just behind you because we have exactly this point, but building on it from the floor from our activators. How can we make sure that the algorithms are being used not just for the good of business and for driving business forward, but also for the planet and for the environment? For the planet and the environment as well.
Would you like to answer that?
I think the question was for you, Elodie.
Okay, well, I think as a brand, if we take that point of view, it's just exactly the same as before algorithm. I mean, as I'm a historian, so sorry, that might be very antique, but even before algorithm were here, we had to think before. I mean, when we had the great industrial revolution, we had to think about people, which was not done. And we screwed a lot of generations because of it, just because you go for a capitalist system. So now it is here, and we have to think about the planet and the people, I would say, altogether before making things in motion. So like I said, as an academic, let's try to think in the same movement. And everything is about movement now, even politics. So before launching massive new things, it's just like medicine, we test before. So we can't really test large scale, but let's try to figure out, to forecast, or just to think of what could be the outcome at a greater level, whether it be for the people or for the planet. So it's not just about technology, it should not just be about technology in itself, ones and zeros. It should also be about the development of thinking. And I think it is really what is missing right now, somehow, is the fact that we should involve more people who are able to develop a great way of forecasting what could be done, and in a good way and a bad way, so that, in the end, the planet would be like respected and the people would go along with technology instead of post-reaction. Reacting a posteriori is always a bad thing, I guess. So because you have to mend. So, do I answer the question?
So, Jean-Yves, one of the things that strikes me about AI is that we're making decisions today that will have very long-term implications. And there's a lot of uncertainty as to how AI may end up impacting the world around us. What are the things that give you most pause for thought? What are your greatest fears? But also, how do you address them? How do you address this issue that we're making decisions now that will have long-term consequences?
Sure. So you really have two parts in your question, which is what is the worst thing that we try to anticipate when we design AI systems, and then how do we make sure, what are the means that we deploy, what are the technique that we adopt to avoid those harms to happen. I think, at least the way I see it, the worst that can happen with AI systems would be a lack of human accountability for matters where AI and the AI systems can impact human rights. Human rights are our fundamental rights. They're given to each of us on our birth, and even before that. So human rights are really the ground floor things that you need to respect. What is the kind of concerns that we need to keep in mind is, as I was saying, a lack of human accountability for decisions that are going to impact our enjoyment of human rights. Now, it's not the only one. And true, there are other concerns which AI systems can raise. And again, I want to mention that there are plenty of good things that AI can do. But that's the one which I think, it's not that it worries me the most, that's the concern which I always have in mind as the one that we should look after. Now, how do we address that? And I was really very interested in hearing you talking about the need to have a broad dialogue on how to address those harms, not only that one. So, the way we do it at Microsoft, just so we can continue this conversation, there are really three things. First, shortly after we decided to go into what we call today artificial intelligence systems, which, by the way, have been there for many, many, many years, but when the industry decided to go for what's called artificial intelligence system, we realized that AI systems, because they help us make decisions, need to comply with a number of principles. And therefore, we, like many other companies have done, we have listed a number of ethical principles that guide us in the development of our AI system. We may not always succeed, but these are really the guiding principles that we keep in mind when we design the systems. And the ethical principles are fairness to everybody. Try as much as you can to anticipate and address risks of discrimination, which is the one which everybody knows about AI systems. Facial recognition are today biased in favor of white men, which means that they are biased against women and against people of color. So this is one of the issues of facial, and we need to keep this in mind when we design facial recognition and we put facial recognition tools in the hands of our customers. So fairness to all. Another one is safety. Another one is safety, which means that you need to anticipate for the worst. Try to anticipate the worst that can happen with the AI system and address that. Security, privacy, transparency, so that people, when they use an AI system, do not get a decision which is made to them, but understand how the decision has been reached at. And even if they are not engineers, they should know, okay, this is a decision which is based on that, and that criteria and comes here like that. And the last one, as I was mentioning, is accountability. Now, the way we do it is, and just to go to your point, in the development of any AI system that we do at Microsoft, there is always a point where the AI system is going to come in front of what's called an ethics committee, which is composed of engineers, lawyers, social scientists, and we also have external people that come and help us to put the right questions. Again, I keep saying we may not have the right answers. We may not have all the questions, but we have this committee which is going to review whether the AI system that we are developing is going to comply with those basic principles. And sometimes we call for regulation so that the debate goes outside the company and will involve as the whole society. And that's what we do, for instance, for facial recognition, where we say this is a technology that needs to be regulated. It is too complex, it may have good uses, bad uses. We think that there should be a democratic debate about how the technology is going to be used. And so that goes to, I think, to your point.
Just to add, actually, to fathom the worst, a lot of artists have been doing that for a while. So whether we read from Ray Bradbury or whoever, I just watched Osmosis yesterday. So just like fictions and movies and TV shows, they have been there. Black Mirror has told us a lot. So we should be looking to artists to help us, well, social scientists, AI people, to look further than we can go, right? So art, I mean, the creativity of people is extraordinarily broad. So we should use and look at artists, not just to say, oh, that's a good TV show. No, just to say, oh, wow, he could be right. He or she could be right.
So in a way, you've just broadened the question I was about to ask, which is, and it speaks to your point about accountability too. What do you see as the role of us as consumers and as rights holders, or retailers, or brands, or technology companies, or governments? Where does responsibility lie for getting this right? And I'm mindful of the time, so quick hit responses.
Yeah. As consumers, know more, know better, research, ask yourself. We can't now, it's not an era where you can say, I didn't know. You know, I mean, as long as you have a phone, you know what can happen. And headlines are here to remind you that you are secretly filmed as you shop. So you can't be unaware of what's going on. So take your own responsibility and stop being called or shown or asking yourself, well, am I a victim? No, you're not a victim. As long as you know, as long as you're on Facebook, on Instagram, on whatever, you know what's happening. So take your own responsibility. Don't expect for Microsoft or for the devilish GAFAs to work out for you. They are businesses, so stop being naive. Sorry, that might be, but I mean, take your own responsibility. These guys, are making business, so make your own decision. And if you don't want your data to be shared, don't give them.
Jean-Yves?
Well, surprisingly, I do agree with you. No, I do agree with you. Again, I think that everybody has a role to play in the development of the AI systems, so to make sure that they go in the right direction, frankly. I was talking about things that we do internally. We need the feedback from third parties, which is what we're doing. We are trying to ask for academics, data scientists to help us put the right questions and then find the answers. Once you have the right question, usually you find the answer. But consumers have also a role to play, retailers have a role to play. When you install a video recognition or facial recognition system in your shop, you should expect to be able to answer to your customers, I mean, where is notice? Where is consent? How long are you going to keep this? And so these are questions that retailers will need to answer and that consumers will need to ask.
So I hate to say this, but behind you there are a lot of red cards when you mentioned that consumers have responsibility. So we've got about a minute left, so one final question. What final message would you leave for brands, for professionals, for companies in the audience? What final message would you leave for them on AI, for better or for worse?
Think more.
Would you say think more?
Think more. Think ahead. Think more.
Yeah. No,
go deeper.
Yeah, and so I think that I go in the same direction as you do. I think artificial intelligence can make people much smarter, but they will not make people smarter if there is not human intelligence with it. And I think it's really a combination of the two that needs to take place.
And I would like to leave us with two key messages. One is to thank Jean-Yves and Elodie for the discussion today and for the entertaining dialogue we just had. But then second, there's a lot of work going on in this field in the technology industry. A lot of technology companies are very active in this debate. But AI is being deployed across every single industry. And what I would love to see is professionals across different industries that are using AI, engaging with technology companies and engaging on these issues, because they're going to become more important over time, and we're making decisions today that will have long-term consequences. But with that, we will close, and I'd like you to thank our two participants.